Did you see the story this week about the Soviet defector and the 10 things that the Soviet defector said? Do you read this?
Yeah.
Did you read it, Stu?
I don't think I did. No.
This guy is the highest ranking defector, still undercover.
And he defected a long time ago, but he just wrote a book about the whole thing and his experiences. And so a lot of this stuff has resurfaced. And so now he's talking about Putin. He's talking about communism, the new sort of attitude towards communism. And didn't he also say something about you in the book?
No, not in the book. I happen to, I can't say I know him, but I know he did an interview with The Blaze. And he was doing some things with the people at Mercury Inc. And so I read the stuff, and I'm like, can we get him on TV? And they're like, no, nobody knows who. No.
Yeah, he's still in hiding.
Yeah, he's still in hiding.
Because Soviet agents are still trying to kill him. 40 years now. Wouldn't that be, I mean, that would be a nightmare.
So here's what he writes. This is what he wrote. The Attention to Disinformation, which is the new book that he's written, is special significance to me. On July 28, 1978, the U.S. military plane brought me from tyranny to a democracy, and it landed at Andrews Air Force Base. When it did, I fell down on my knees, and I prayed out loud for the first time in more than a quarter of a century. It took me a while. It wasn't easy for me to find the words to express my great joy and thanks to the good Lord. Now, for 30 years, I have been married to a multi-generation American, and I don't want to give any more information. I have regained my religion. I began listening to Glenn with different ears. As I wrote Disinformation, I kept noting to my co-author how our book was so close to the things that Glenn says on his show. We were inspired by Glenn. Please send him my appreciation with deep gratitude. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
But you read the things. Now, this is the highest ranking official to ever defect from the Soviet Union. And when we got him, there's a reason he is still. Think of this. 1978, you think the Soviet Union is over. 1978, he is still living undercover. You still don't know who he is because he held information that was so important that they would kill him today for it. Think of that. Who else do you know that has information that could get killed today?
Almost 40 years later.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's crazy.
Yeah.
That is crazy to think of that. So he writes this book called Disinformation, and he is starting now to talk about, let me tell you what we were doing in the 70s. Let me tell you what's really happening. And up on the Blaze, there was a story this week, and we'll see if we can find it. Post it either again someplace up on the front of the Blaze, or maybe Scott can put a link up at the top, or we'll go over to glennbeck.com. But look for this story.
It's 11 quotes that will shock and chill you from our interview with the highest-ranking Soviet bloc intel officer to ever defect. So just go to the Blaze and you can search for that. But some of the quotes are just, I mean, he talks about Russia today. He talks about Putin, how he's treated by the West, and what's really going on there. And he calls it the first. I'm just kind of looking through this. It was something like the first ever intelligentsia government. So they're not really communist. They're not, and they're certainly not capitalist. Or democratic. They're run by the FSB. Apparently, with Putin at the head.
That's the new
heard of
KGB.
Yeah,
that's the new KGB. Really, really shocking and scary because, you know, right now communists are the ones that are really pushing the world, and you're not really even seeing this. You have to look for it. You just Google search unrest, global unrest, okay, economic unrest. Just do a Google search on that today, and look at where, I mean, Venezuela is now in unrest. It's happening all over the world. The whole world is at a boiling point, and in 2 years, it's only going to be worse. And the people who are really pushing this are the anarchist. Really, secondly, it's the communists that are really pushing this. It's the Marxist point of view. They never look at Tahrir Square. It never ends with who started. And I think if they start pushing global unrest, I think you're not going to see a workers of the world unite communist globe. You're going to see much of it fall into fascism. You'll see statism and fascism and mob thugocracy. It will not be good for the world. It will not be good.
And I'm sure the left scoffs at this, but one of his quotes was, "Perhaps our book, Disinformation, perhaps our book may also help President Obama abandon his craving for Marx's utopian ideology, to each according to his need." So that's not coming from us. That's coming from a guy. He also said his Marxist, his need to bring about this utopian ideology is transforming the United States into a decaying socialist country in all but name.
What would this guy know about communism?
Yeah, I know, right?
He's not going to know anything about Marx.
He only just rose to the highest ranks of the party and went, "Oh dear God, how do I get out?" I mean, it's terrifying.
He wouldn't be able to see that coming.
No, he wouldn't.
Come on.
That's stupid.
We can get if you're interested, we can get his co-author on. He won't come on, obviously, but we can get the co-author on who can tell us. You're interested in that?
Yeah.
Then let's book that.
All right.
Remind me when the day comes. This is the co-author of the disinformation guy, and then I'll go, "Oh, okay."
So you don't complain about it constantly?
Because you always complain about it.